welcome to Radio Free Endor. My name is Jonathan.
I'm Nikki. Sorry.
And today we're joined by the Wampa's Lair guys, Jason and Karl. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good. How about you guys?
Well.
Aside from some technical difficulties.
I am also doing well.
Great. Just want to first congratulate you guys on 100 episodes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Wampa's Lair. Huge milestone. Huge. So before we talk more, whenever we get new people on, we always want to ask them how they were introduced to Star Wars. So if we could just start with that.
Love it. Great question. Jason, go.
Thanks, Karl. I was introduced to Star Wars with the special editions, and then there's a story that goes along with this and I've told it a couple times on our podcast, but about a month before A New Hope came out as a special edition in '97, about a month before that, we were at Walmart and we were looking through the sporting goods section, and I remember it being very bare because it was right after Christmas. But there was this toy sitting on one of the shelves in the sporting goods section, and being, 7, I was like, ooh, a toy. So I went over and looked at it because it wasn't supposed to be there. And it was a Star Wars Micro Machine set. And I looked at it and I was like, what is this? Star Wars? I'll never like Star Wars. And I shoved it to the back of the shelf and walked away. Month later, my parents took me to see A New Hope in the theaters, and I was never the same again. Of course, I come by it naturally, considering my mom saw it 11 times in the theater when it originally came out in '77. So I suppose I have a genetic disposition to like Star Wars. And Karl, what about you?
It's oddly enough, I don't have like a set time. I think that's true of a lot of people, kind of like in my age bracket, because it was like growing up in the in-between before like the special editions, but long after the originals. But yeah, it was just kind of like I was really close friends with my two cousins growing up, and my oldest cousin was a big Star Wars fan, and so was his brother. And it was just kind of like always around when I was a kid. Like I played with the toys long before I ever even saw a Star Wars movie. And I just loved the toys, and I loved just kind of how much fun I had with that. And then the first time I, saw the Empire Strikes Back, sat down and saw it, I was just completely captivated, and I was like, this is amazing. I want to be all about this thing. And it just kind of it just took off from there. We used to play like Batman, Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, but then when I saw Star Wars, I kind of just threw all those things aside and said, this is my life. So
cool stuff. So eventually you guys met at Celebration 6, right?
Fan Days. We met at Fan Days. Was that a year before Celebration?
Yeah, it was. Was it 2 years before?
Oh goodness, I don't remember. Year and a half. Let's split the difference. Say year and a half.
There we go. Well, we met at Fan Days in October of 2011, and then whenever the heck was that in 2012 or 2013?
Celebration. Yes,
Celebration was 2012, so it was about a year later. Less than actually. I think.
Less than a year later. But yeah, we met at Fan Days. I was going there because I was originally going to go with a friend, but he had to back out at the last minute. But I decided to just go up anyways, because I knew Matt Krenke from Frontlines and the Sarlacc Pit, and he was going to be there, and so I was going to go meet him in person and hang out with them. And Karl, you were given a ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris Smith from the Sarlacc Pit. I had just been on probably about a month before Fan Days. They had me on the Sarlacc Pit, Matt and Chris. And Chris told me he had an extra VIP ticket that nobody had claimed, and that as long as I paid for my flight, I'd have a place to stay and a free ticket. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to go to something like this. And I flew out and met Chris, and the next morning I met Jason. I just really liked him. He was just so energetic and funny. And then my shtick all at Fan Days was just going around asking everybody what their favorite Star Wars movie was, because I was genuinely sincere. And Jason's like, I love Return of the Jedi, but a close second is Attack of the Clones. And I was like, wait, who are you? He's like, yeah, and I really like Jar Jar. And I'm like, okay, you want to do a podcast, you weirdo?
That's it's a really simplified version, but it's very accurate actually. So, but yes, that's sort of how this whole Wampa's Lair thing happened. So
yeah. So, and one thing is that, like, a lot of, like, like our podcast, a lot of podcasts, we kind of focus on, like, the news and discussion. So, we'll give you guys, like, the idea to go in, like, a completely other direction and do what you do.
I think it was mostly, again, I've said this a lot on our own show. The Starlight Pit has kind of always been my inspiration for Star Wars podcasting. When I first got into Star Wars podcasts, I downloaded a whole bunch because I'd never really listened to any before. And a couple of them I was just like, not really feeling it. I've never been a crazy fan of just the news shows. But the Starlight Pit, they did the news, but then they always had these like just topics that went in depth about the films. I'm like, that's what I want a show to be. That's what I want my show to be if I ever make one. And then I met Jason, and Jason brings so much to the table because he's also such a deep thinker and really smart guy that we just kind of just jumped into the films and the characters and the music and all the little things that we love about Star Wars, and we just extrapolate on that and just really have a great time having fun with that. Of course we talk news here and there, but our focus is just pulling apart Star Wars and looking and dissecting all these things that we love.
Yeah. And as we were getting started, we were talking with Riley Blanton, or Karl was anyways, and Riley said, you want to have something that sets you apart, that you can claim as original to you. And so that was just sort of the thing that we decided that we were going to latch onto, and then just sort of inspired by those long conversations that we all end up having at conventions, just about Star Wars or whatever geeky thing you're into at whatever convention. So, it's just like, why don't we just do that and have a show about it? And that's kind of what happened. So, and I'm glad it's still working.
Yeah, even like over 100 episodes later, you guys still come up with a new topic.
And what's great about that is because now we've got episodes 7, 8, and 9 plus the standalone, so we have even more stuff coming down the pipe so that we won't have to keep repeating things. Because we've had a couple of episodes about Han Solo. We've recently just revisited Anakin Skywalker and his fall to the dark side and redemption. That was like way early when we originally did that, and then we just recently redid it in a much more shorter and condensed.
Looking more like we started, like, we did basically like it was a 2-part episode that totaled over 4 hours of like looking at all the intricacies of his rise and fall. But then we just decided to revisit it just a few episodes ago, just looking at some specific scenes in the films and kind of looking at how those scenes really show how his fall happens, and is then following up with his redemption. So I'm not going to lie, obviously having this mixer, I wanted to play with soundboard stuff.
Yeah, so. I was about to mention that. The mixer.
The bane of Jason's, like, he can whip out Star Wars voices like it's his job, whereas I'm like, here, I'll type it in.
Yeah, you guys do have these little, like, you guys do take these little, like, side breaks, and you kind of do have a Star Wars conversation.
Oh, yes. Generally, it has something, not always, but generally it has something to do with what we're talking about. We'll be referencing a scene for, we'll take the Anakin fall example for example, and we'll be talking about the opera scene where Palpatine is regaling him with tales of, you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No.
I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend. And then we go on from there, and usually we'll end up finishing the scene. But
I love when I get to be Hayden Christensen, because it's like, there's no way I'm doing this bad.
All for Hayden.
I know. Hey, don't act like Christensen.
What was that?
There's this thing online where his nickname is Hey, don't act again, Christensen.
Oh, that's mean.
It's mean.
He has some great moments. He has some really great moments. And one of your favorite scenes from Attack of the Clones is involving him. So
absolutely, no, he does some great scenes. And I honestly, I know everybody gives him hell for this, but I love the little. I hate sand. It's dry. It's everywhere. He does that so good. It makes so much sense because it's like, yeah, of course he hates sand. He grew up on Tatooine and he was a slave. All of his feelings about that planet are going to be negative.
Well, it's like he was also reverting back to that childhood because it was said in such a little kid, kind of hate sand, kind of thing. So it's like Yeah, it made sense. He was back on Tatooine and he was reliving his childhood. And so he kind of acted like a little kid. I love that moment.
Yeah. And one of the things we sort of discussed in that episode about Anakin's fall is that mentally and emotionally, Anakin didn't really grow up very much.
No, you're right. He was
But
still
yes,
that boy.
There's a sneak preview into what we do on the Wampa&rsquo Lair Podcast. So
awesome.
Yeah. So like.
So you.
Oh, go ahead, Nikki.
You did episodes about Han Solo. You say
2 of them. He's the best. I love it.
Thank you,
Nikki. I feel like you're a Han Solo guy, aren't you? Or woman? Sorry.
It's okay.
Carl, you're not welcome.
I'm one of the guys. Of course, it's Carl who said that. Yes. Since I was 6, when I first saw my first Star Wars film, which was Empire, I've had a major crush. It started out as a little girl's crush on a bad boy, and he's been my favorite character ever since. I mean, through everything, through all incarnations, I just think he's a lot more than people give him credit for, and I think he has such a major growth. His arc is a lot more important to me than a lot of the other characters are, like Luke. I've never been a fan of. But I'm sorry.
You have to apologize.
But yeah, it's his story arc that I find the most interesting to me. And so anything Han Solo related, I'm all over. And Boba Fett. But don't tell Han.
It's all right. Han killed him.
Don't tell my imaginary, boyfriend. It's not that I wanted to date Han. I actually wanted to be his and Leia's kid. I wanted to be Nikki Solo, and I wanted to fly around in the Millennium Falcon and be raised basically by Chewbacca and have a really cool mom and dad. Not that mine weren't great, but so other people appreciating the great character that he is always very satisfying to me. So on behalf of him, I thank you.
Thank you. So what would you guys say, like, you've covered so many topics, what are, like, some of your favorite? I'm sure it's really hard, but what are some of your favorite discussions?
Oof, that is really difficult, because I've forgotten more discussions than I care to admit, because it's been so long. And it's weird to say that it's been so long, because it's almost 3 years now. Is that correct, Carl?
Yeah, I mean, we're like 2 weeks away from 3 years.
Oh my gosh. But honestly, one of my more recent favorites was one, and I'm looking at the list right now, was one that we had called the Special Edition, where we basically went through the films, and we talked about changes that we did like that they had been made to the movies, changes that we didn't like, and then changes that we would have made if we were given the reins to do a special edition of the films. And we got some really interesting ideas out of both of us, and that's where I had my big brainstorm of why I like the Hayden Christensen as Force Ghost Anakin at the end of Return of the Jedi, and why that needs to be there. I know Carl appreciates my idea, but he doesn't agree with it.
I totally get you on that. I'm the person who goes around when people like to come to me to complain about special editions and any other modifications. I'm like, I am not George Lucas. Please don't complain to me. I'm not the complaint department for Lucasfilm. I'm sure there is one. I'm not it, and I cannot. It's like, you love Star Wars, so I'm going to complain to you about it. It's like, I understand everything why George did what he did. I love the fact that Anakin's Force Ghost is now Hayden. I mean, I think, yeah, poor Sebastian Shaw, but he's gone now. So we don't really have to worry about his feelings getting hurt.
Well, for me, I always thought Sebastian Shaw was too old anyway, so it doesn't really
I felt that in the timeline that has since been established that, yeah, Sebastian Shaw doesn't fit the age timeline.
Yeah, when I saw that picture, I'm like little photos, I'm like, what? That was once Obi-Wan Kenobi's apprentice? He looks like it's like almost like Luke's grandpa or something. Like, what were they thinking?
Yeah,
and
I always
there's a story behind why Sebastian Shaw got cast, and I'm forgetting where I heard this. It might have David Collins might have told this story on one podcast he was guesting on. I don't remember, but apparently Sebastian Shaw was really down on his luck, in need of money actor, and was a friend of Alec Guinness. And Alec Guinness asked George Lucas, is there a place that we can put him into the movie? And they gave the role to Sebastian Shaw for Anakin Skywalker. So,
I've heard that story as well. So I thought it was very kind, and I thought it was a great use. I mean, Sebastian Shaw was, a brilliant actor, brilliant theater actor in the UK. And as much as I pray to the altar of the original trilogy, and still adore the prequels, and I even like the special editions, nobody shoot me. I defend the use of Hayden as the Force Ghost, because to me, when Anakin fell to the dark side, when he ceased being Anakin Skywalker, that's what he looked like. Mm-hmm. And Darth Vader, that's a Force, to me, that's the Force Ghost. When you turn to the dark side, that part of him died. And the Jedi part of him died. And that's, to me, makes it totally appropriate for it to be that. I understand every criticism. I totally get it. But, I do. Because I can see both sides of a situation. I haven't always been that way. I used to be just fervently, no, you must not bash the prequels to me. But it makes the most sense to me. And I understand why it had to hit, why the reasons were, what the reasons were for changing it. And I'm fine with it. I actually like it, Yeah.
So Carl,
all that to say, that was one of my favorite discussions we had.
Yeah, what about you, Carl?
Whenever I get to tell Jason he's wrong for liking that. I'm just kidding. Kind of like Jason said, we've done so many. There's so many good ones, I guess, that I've enjoyed. But I've really enjoyed doing some of our character development episodes. So obviously early on when we did our Luke Skywalker journey episodes and looking at his character development, we've done that with, Anakin. We've done it with Obi-Wan and Yoda. I really enjoy doing that and kind of pulling these characters apart and really fleshing them out and trying to kind of equate them to why I personally enjoy them. And Jason and I have done some episodes too where, we've shared some personal information. We did one not too long ago. I don't even remember the name of it, Jason. But it was, we kind of talked about what characters we have most identified with over the years. So when we were kids, we identified with certain characters, and now as we're older, which characters and kind of why, and sharing a bit about ourselves and how we have kind of come to understand ourselves through the avenue of Star Wars. So I like taking when we can do episodes like that, but I also love really fun episodes. I remember when we did our top 5 ships with Chris Smith from Sarlacc Pit a long time ago, which was a lot of fun. Anytime we have Joe Hogan on, I love it.
Because we get to abuse him mercilessly, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I know that's probably not a direct answer because I'm not giving specific discussions, but it's just, I just love the thing that I love about it too, which I mentioned this not too long ago on one of our episodes, but I love doing it with Jason because he's so on board with anything I propose, which is great. I'll have an idea come to me and I'll text him right away. I'm just saying I want to do an episode on this, and he's like, okay. It's just wonderful.
But no torture scenes.
No torture scenes.
Yeah, I don't get it. There's
no, Carl, we're not doing that.
Get back to those Carl's corners just to do something on the torture scene.
I'm so intrigued by your podcast on character development. Do you use Joseph Campbell? Have you read any of his work? The Hero's Journey, The Mask, The
Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Yeah, I love.
Yeah, the thing with Joseph Campbell is you've read one thing, you've read them all, which is true of a lot of philosophers. And that's not to knock it, but I'm not a Joseph Campbell scholar by any means, but I definitely know his work enough to see obviously how it heavily influenced George Lucas. So that's really fun, but as somebody with a degree in theology, I really love to bring in theology into Star Wars and we see those elements, and in the philosophical stuff, Jason has a real good background in the classics, so he can kind of apply it to that as well.
Yeah, I one of my other favorite things, aside from all the geeky things I like, is I'm a really big fan of Greek myth, and so I've read that for pleasure. That's pleasure reading for me sometimes. So I'm well aware of a lot of that sort of stuff, and so a lot of the archetypes that George Lucas uses, have basis in that, or in Norse mythology, or in British folk tales and legends, like King Arthur or Robin Hood. So, and those are all sort of things that fall into this sort of myth category that I'm really a big fan of. So,
That's amazing. It's so rare to find people who want to talk about Star Wars on that level, because that's part of the thing I love doing too, is getting back to mythology and getting to the different masks, and definitely Joseph Campbell. And I've read a lot of his stuff, and I agree that pretty much once you've read one thing, you've read them all. But it was because of Star Wars that I got into it, and that I started researching. Even at the age of 6 and 7, I started reading Greek myth and Norse myth, and took as many books out of the library as I could at the time. So, and I do, like you, I read it for pleasure. I was like, let's see what Thor is up to today.
Oh yes, the Iliad is such light reading.
It is. How many classes I had to read that for? Oh my god, that's what happens when you're an English minor. You have to read the Iliad and the Odyssey 50 times. Actually, one of my projects, I wrote a screenplay for the Odyssey.
Wow.
Because I was so bored with writing papers, I'm like, I'm gonna do this totally differently and just totally blow my professor's mind. Because I was the one who was always going, no, what about this and the mythology of this, and how does this equate to the Chinese mythology of blah blah blah. And he was just like, just write something, I don't care. Just write something, I'll give you a grade, that'll be it. Just stop talking. So it's very cool I've listened to a few Star Wars podcasts, and nobody's really talking about that kind of stuff. So I find that it's definitely something that sets you guys apart, and it's probably why you've had over 100 episodes. I can't imagine doing this 100 times.
And Jason does great voices, and annoys
that
Carl
too,
and entertains Carl with Jar Jar.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Oh, Misa.
I do love when he does Jar Jar. I'm not going to lie. Like, I still don't really love Jar Jar, but I love Jason's Jar Jar.
Am I the only person who just doesn't get why people... I mean, I get why people hate him, but I just don't... I don't...
I'm with you there, Nikki. Growing up, Phantom Menace was basically the Star Wars movie that, really jump-started my love of Star Wars. Yes, I liked Star Wars special editions and everything, but seeing the Phantom Menace made me start going out and finding all the other things about Star Wars. And Jar Jar was my favorite character from the Phantom Menace, because I thought he was hysterical, and I was clumsy and awkward like he was. So, and I've said this on our podcast, but I sort of grew up with him. By the time he was, in episode 2, I was getting to be at a more stable point in my life as far as my interactions with other people. So, I sort of grew up with Jar Jar. So, but yes, me so loving Jar Jar Binks.
Very good.
I understand why people don't like him. To me, he doesn't bother me because I don't think he's in the movie enough to bother me. I'm more bothered by other things in the Phantom Menace than I am by Jar Jar. To me, he's just like, okay, there he is. He's over there. Hello. He just did something funny and wacky. And that's what he was supposed to do. I mean, Lucas asked his dad to have a character for the kids. And Phantom Menace is a kid's film. And, George said that from day one. It was going to be more of a kid's film than the originals were. And I'm from the original, I saw The Empire Strikes Back when it was first in the theater.
What was it like seeing the torture scene in its original form?
Well, not that I'm a connoisseur of torture scenes, as apparently you are. I was scared to death because this was the character that I had identified as the hero, because he was the first one I connected with. It was Han, and he was being hurt, and I didn't like that. And as a 6-year-old, I understood kind of I understood what was going on completely. My mom didn't have to explain anything to me. And of course she still wonders, what the heck she did, by taking me to that movie. But I was terrified because Darth Vader terrified me. From the moment you see him walking onto that base at Hoth and the starkness of the black against the white, that just I still get goosebumps when I watch it, and I watch it quite frequently. I still get goosebumps. It still scares the crap out of me to see Darth Vader enter the ice base, and it still makes me cry when Han gets put in a carbon freeze.
What a great comes into the Echo base. Oh, so good. Oh God.
I mean, I know what's coming, and I shake because that was really the first introduction to how powerful he was for me. Because yeah, we saw him on the Executor, but on the Star Destroyer, but we didn't really. I mean, he was menacing, but when he's walking, and I think it was the contrast between the good and the bad that even as a 6-year-old I was understanding, and I mean, it's still, I think it's one of the greatest scenes still to this day from that, and that's my favorite movie. So, but yeah, any torture scene involving Han will always spark a very protective, get your hands off my man kind of thing.
And they never asked him any questions.
I know. It's like, what's the freaking point? Why'd you put him through that and all those needles? And I'm pretty sure that's where I get my horrible fear of needles. Because I still have to lay down or I will pass out when I have to have shots or something. It's because of that machine. And so I blame George Lucas for that, as well as, my low bank account. So, yeah. So that's my take on the torture scene. As far as torture scenes go, it's right up there with Gollum being tortured by Sauron to reveal the Baggins Shire.
Oh man.
Location.
Well, Karl, that was your our little discussion on torturers.
I appreciate that. Jason won't even humor me.
No, not at all.
Even though you don't like the Beatles, I will talk torture with you.
Don't listen to him, okay?
This is getting just a little awkward.
I think one of my favorite things you guys have done is the music. I think it's partly the mixing board you have that you can just play the music in the background or play it and then talk about it after. And
well, you want a little secret?
What's that?
Whenever the music's in the background, that's actually not the mixer. I always go in post-production to add the music. I mean, if there's a sound clip, that's usually the mixer, but I didn't
Whoop. Karl?
Did we lose Karl?
Karl, did we lose you?
Huh. Oh.
Aw. Karl?
Yes?
You cut out for a minute.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there. But I'm back.
All right. Okay, so that's in post. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, can I ask you a question then?
Sure.
Always good to get outside opinions. So I don't know if you noticed, but we used to, for probably the first 60 to 70 episodes, we always had Star Wars music playing through the entire background.
Yeah.
But then we kind of just got rid of that. I mean, we still have a song for the beginning and the end, but we kind of got rid of it, and that was kind of a twofold decision. One was I was just sick of putting it all in post-production. It took forever. But then secondly, just from all their podcasts I'd listened to that didn't have music in the background, I found that I could pay a better attention to what was being said. But are you partial to music or not?
I guess I was more a fan where you didn't actually have it in the background. I guess I kind of thought it was distracting. I mean, I suppose whatever the current thing you guys are doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any background music that you'll hear, if it's just quiet in the background, that's post. But if we're talking about it, or if Karl wants to bring up, something to be funny, like a song that's not related to Star Wars, yeah, that's all through the mixer. He's doing it live. Okay. So, because Karl's goofy like that.
I did notice that there is some difference you guys made, and I think whatever change you made is for the better.
Okay, good. So, I'm glad we're getting better.
That's good. You guys suck now, but
Oh goodness. But yeah, no, it's always good to know that you're getting better, and changes that you make are well received. It's always good to know that. And we like to think that we have a good rapport with our, we call them Larians, the people that we can interact with on our Facebook page and Twitter and all that fun stuff. And so a lot of them are not shy about telling us what they think about what we're doing. So
right. I know one way you get involved with the us Larians is doing the matchups, which you've been doing for how long? Since the beginning?
So like 2 or 3.
Yeah. Okay. Once they started actually getting on iTunes, because we recorded a couple of episodes before iTunes like put them up. I remember that being a source of irritation right off the bat. But once iTunes started putting them up, we were like, okay, we want to do something to get people involved. And I wanting to do something that would make people have to come back and listen to the next episode in order to get the results. And so I don't remember if it was you or me, Karl, that came up with the idea.
I had the idea early on of doing an episode where we just talked about some matchups we would have loved to have seen in the movies. I was like, I've always wondered, what if Anakin fought Mace Windu in episode 3? It'd be fun to take these what if matchups. And Jason said, well, rather than do an episode on it, what if we make that a segment? So it grew from an episode idea into a basically 97 episode long segment. So
yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so what we do, for those who haven't listened to us, is we present a matchup at the end of our episode, and at the beginning of our next episode, we will reveal the results of everybody's contributions on Facebook and Twitter and email as to who wins the matchup. And we've added polls now too, so that it's not just like character versus character. Now we want to know. Our first poll was, which is your favorite Star Wars movie? We had a feeling we knew, but we were curious to see how the rest of them would fare. So, but yeah, so that was just sort of, and I wanted something that would like have people forced to come back to get the result, so that we were still getting people to come back to us early on. So it was sort of a ploy to trap the listeners to keep coming back to our podcast. And I think it's working. So
yeah.
How very Admiral Akbar of you.
It's a trap!
Yeah.
Just curious, what was your last poll?
Our last poll was favorite scene from Phantom Menace.
Oh.
No, we just released one though. That's from Attack of the Clones. Favorite scene from Attack of the Clones.
Oh, I see.
So the favorite scene from the Phantom Menace was the Duel of the Fates.
Oh God,
no
yes.
surprise there.
I mean, I know
that
people
scene was
who don't.
magnificent.
Yeah, I know people who'd only been like the Phantom Menace, but they love that scene.
Oh yeah.
That was a Star Wars film right there. That was what we want. That was what I wanted. That's all I wanted was that scene, and I would have been happy. And I love the movie, but that scene just knocked it out of the park. That was George at his best because he let the stunt guys direct it. I love you, George. But yeah, even he says he doesn't like directing actors. So.
He's the ideas man.
He is, and I love him, and I worship at the altar of the Maker. Thank the Maker. But yeah, what was the result of the favorite film? Do you remember?
It was Empire Strikes
Yes!
Back.
Yes!
No question.
How could anything even beat that?
Well, I remember watching an interview, or it was a special, I think it was on A&E several years ago, I think when the special editions came out, and they were interviewing the original cast, and they asked them what their favorite was, and they all said Empire Strikes Back, and I felt so validated by that.
Because they didn't have to work with George Lucas as the director. He can't direct actors. I mean, he's very open about that, obviously.
Oh yeah, and so were they.
Kirshner,
They really liked Kirshner, and they loved the darkness of it.
Yep.
Like it was the dark ones. It's drama. That's the formula for a dramatic work is you start off and you build up to, and you put your characters in the most horrible situation you can think of, and then you resolve it. You help that, they lead to resolve it. But I just thought it was the most perfect of them, not just because of everything that was revealed, but because I think it was the best made of them. I just think dramatically it worked a lot better. But I hadn't, as a child, at 6 years old, I had not seen A New Hope, so I had nothing to judge it on.
Carl, I know you have to go soon. So, before you go, I know you guys I just listened to the episode of Rebels where you guys review when you went from beginning to end. So, what did you like? Just give your quick little summary of what you thought of it.
Rebels.
Of Rebels?
Yeah.
I think in a nutshell, it felt like Star Wars. It felt like the OT Star Wars that I've always loved the most. And again, I love the prequels. I enjoy the Clone Wars. I love all that stuff. But my favorite brand of Star Wars is the OT era. So I just really felt like they captured that feel, that kind of that mystery and that adventure that we felt in the OT. And again, it's not prequels, but it's prequels and the Clone Wars to a certain degree are limited in story they can tell because we know where it eventually ends up. What's so fun about Rebels now, what's even more exciting about Episode 7, the sequel trilogies, we have no idea where it's going to go. We don't know any of these characters in Rebels, so they're all in danger. They're all up for grabs. So I like that mystery of not knowing again. So, and just, the look of it, the sounds, the music in it, it felt like I was watching Star Wars again. So I think that's the gist of it for me.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I think it's definitely cool that, the time period is, they still made it so it's pretty close to A New Hope, but at least it's more than 2 or 3 years that we have with the Clone Wars.
Right.
Because that was a thing where, it went on for over 5 years, but they had to keep, kind of condensing it. No, this is still in the same 2 to 3 years, and I think perhaps with Rebels it'll be a little more clear. I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I think about this one is that, here we're going to just be with one crew,
Yeah.
So, what would you guys,
Yeah.
So Carl, I know you have to go.
Yeah.
So, and I think you're kind of breaking up too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's probably crappy internet again tonight. But before I go, just thank you guys very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
well, thank you for being on. It was fun.
Thanks.
My pleasure. I agree. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
Bye,
Thank
Carl.
you. Bye, Carl.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
And then there were 3.
Yep.
Is he gone? Can we talk about him now?
Yes, he's gone.
Yes.
No, I do have to say I totally agree with him on Rebels. So might not agree with him about everything, but sorry, inside joke. But yeah, I completely agree about Rebels.
And you, Jason?
Oh goodness, I loved it. It was just so much fun, and I think the best part of it for me was the humor of the OT was back. Mm. And I don't know if that's something I realized I had missed with all my years of loving and defending the prequels to everybody that looked at it cross-eyed,
Yeah.
But seeing that and getting the humor plus the adventure and it's still bridging that gap between the OT and the PT. It's much more leaning towards the OT because that's where it's headed. But we get, all these things, especially with Kanan, connections back to the prequels, right. Because he's a Jedi of the old order, in hiding. And so I like the fact that we are getting that. The atmosphere of it still feels very original trilogy, but there's still these threads that, continue on from where we've come from with the prequels, which makes me happy because it validates the fact that I see this all as one big whole story, and not just the OT over here and the PT over there. So
exactly.
Yeah. See, I'm also like you. I'm also a child of the 90s, early 2000s. So I kind of you're a little older than me, but roughly we're still the same generation of,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't really until I got like, I don't know, probably not until like, I don't know, like after I got out of high school and early college that I find out that, wait, people hate the prequels. And I think it was also when I started going on the internet as well, when the internet was like...
The internet will kill everything you love
God.
just for the fun of it.
So I think...
People wonder why I didn't go on the internet until recently. I had enough people coming up to me and saying, why did the prequel suck? I'm like, I don't know. Why do you think they suck? I didn't think they sucked.
Exactly.
What am I supposed to do about this? I don't know. I mean, I'm a child. Oh God, you guys are making me feel old. I'm a child of the original. Okay. I'm a child of the original trilogy. I didn't see the first one, obviously, but I saw the second one. Well, episode 5. And I will defend those prequels. And you know what? If people want to tear apart the prequels, and because of their love of the original trilogy, I am not blinded by the light of the original trilogy. I can see the flaws in any movie. My favorite films, my favorite books, I can see the flaws, and I can just as quickly point out flaws in the original trilogies as people can with the prequels. None of those movies are perfect.
No.
They might be perfect in my heart.
Exactly. But
they're not perfect films. And this is the question I asked when anybody criticized the prequels to me. Is like, what did you expect? What were you promised? What did George Lucas promise us? He promised the Star Wars films. What did we get? We got Star Wars films. He did not promise fantastic script. He did not promise, oh my God, these, the acting will be spectacular. It'll be, these will get Oscar nominations. No, we wanted lightsabers. We wanted space battles. We wanted a bad guy and a good guy. And we wanted a lot of crappy dialogue. Because that is what Star Wars is. I love Star Wars to pieces. It's my favorite thing on the planet. But it's not got the best dialogue.
No.
And that's what we got. And that's when people would say that. It's like, who promised you all this stuff that you wanted? Nobody promised you anything. We were promised one thing, Star Wars. And that's what we got. And if you're not happy with it, that's your own damn problem.
Touche.
Because I am not the one to complain to about these things. But, you find yourself defending, and I defended the special editions as well when those came out. And I remember going to see them with my friends and cheering when Yoda showed up and when Chewbacca showed up and R2-D2, Boba Fett. Nobody cheered when Luke showed up.
Oh, that's sad. But
it is sad. I'm not a fan, but I still appreciate his character.
See, my thing is when people start complaining to me about the special editions, I just tell them I've never seen the unspecial edition. I haven't. And that sort of ends the conversation there. So.
Oh, that's so sad. No. I have them on Laserdisc.
I don't.
And video.
And the thing is I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I've never seen Han shoot first. Everybody tells me he did.
Well, he does in the Blu-ray.
From what I've been told, it's sort of like the same time because Greedo still gets a shot off.
Well, that's kind of how it was when it originally aired. It was blast.
Yeah. See, my thing is, that doesn't change anything for me. Han was still going for his gun. He was still going to shoot Greedo no matter what. So it just made it more intense for me as a kid going, oh my gosh, he survived and he killed the guy.
I see. I didn't understand why people were so upset over Han not shooting first. I mean, yes, I have a t-shirt that says, damn right, I shot first. But it's Han Solo. Of course I'm going to have it. But, to me, Han didn't fire until fired upon. To me, that was more of, instead of rather than being like a duel at noon on the streets of Mos Eisley, it was, he was like, okay, you're going to shoot me, I'm going to shoot you back. He wasn't taking a shot at someone who didn't deserve it. And, I mean, even though Greedo did deserve it.
Deserved it.
But to me, either way, it worked fine. I don't think it didn't take anything away from the experience for me to see the special editions. I found one or two things mildly distracting from the original, but at this point in 97, when the special editions came out, I had already seen the original trilogy over 1,000 times. So, if not more, I've lost count. I'm well over 3,000 now. And there were certain things, because I know these films so well, I know what's different. I could see what's different out of the corner of my eye. So there were just a few things that distracted me a little bit. I'm like, wait, that's different. That's wrong. That shouldn't be there. You should not see the outside of Cloud City. That was all a wall. What happened to that wall? But I like that addition because I like seeing more of Cloud City.
Exactly.
I liked most of what he added. I don't like it when things are taken away, but I remember I was at Celebration 4, and it was the day before, it was the 6-movie marathon, and they even had changed what we saw at the marathon. There were different scenes. There were things added just for the marathon. And I was so disconcerted. I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. That's not right. Okay, this isn't even special edition stuff. This is new. Oh my God, why is Boba Fett's voice so wrong?
Ah, the DVD release with Tamara Morrison.
And that was what we saw at the movie marathon at Celebration 4. And I'm a huge Boba Fett fan. I mean, he's my number 2. I absolutely worship that character. People don't understand it, and that's fine. I love Jeremy Bulloch so much, and I know him personally, and I was just like, that's not Jeremy Bulloch. I don't like it. I don't like it. Make it stop. But I was so happy to see him in episode 3 that it just kind of took that. And he was fine with it, and I chatted with him about it. And, I said, I was very upset that your voice is gone. And because, you know what, it wasn't even my voice. So I was like, oh, okay. He goes, and I wasn't even in the suit with that scene. I was like, oh, that's right. You were a stormtrooper in that scene. So it definitely helps to find out that, your most favorite actor from Star Wars was not actually in the scene that you're complaining about. I was like, oh, well, it's like finding out Harrison Ford wasn't in the Carbon.
Jason, what are your, what Star Wars celebs have you met?
Oh, Star Wars celebs. I haven't met very many of them. Simply because going to conventions has been a rather recent thing. Fan Days was my very first one. I got my picture taken with Catherine Tabor.
Cool.
So that was really neat. That was like right before season 3 premiered of the Clone Wars. So they were talking about the Mon Calamari episodes during their talk at Fan Days. So that was fun. I sort of said hello to Tom Kane twice now. I saw him at Fan Days and I saw him at Celebration 6. And then Steven Stanton was also at Fan Days, and so I said hello to him as well. But I haven't really had the opportunity or made the time to go meet some of these celebrities. Because usually when I go to conventions and they've got the big celebrities, it's like, all this money to go get their autograph or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have that money, so I'm going to go find a panel or wander the convention floor.
Yeah, I don't do autographs. I refuse to pay for an autograph. I think it's ridiculous. And after my first interaction with Mark Hamill over an autograph, I'm like, I'm not paying $130. He was very rude to me.
Oh.
I've forgiven him since. Don't worry. He knows. He apologized. But yeah, whenever I've met, I've been to all but one. I didn't go to Celebration 5, but I've been to all the other celebrations. And I don't actually go to if somebody else I'm with wants to go, I'll go and I'll meet people. But I usually try to, if I meet someone from Star Wars, it's usually an accident. I'm wandering around the convention, San Diego Comic-Con. I walked up and I looked down and there's Kenny Baker. And I'm like, oh my God, you're Kenny Baker. And he looks up at me and goes, not very far up because I'm not that tall. He said, yes, I am. And I said, it's an honor to meet you. And thank you so much for being such a big part of my childhood and my life. And he was just very sweet. And Jeremy Bulloch I did wait in line for, but it was for the Silver Boba Fett.
Ah. Collecting.
Oh, God.
The bane of our existence.
Yes, the bane of my bank account.
Speaking of collecting, I was going to mention that they did, back in April, they announced, Hallmark announced that they were going to release a Wampa, and that's going to be available at San Diego Comic-Con. They're coming out. It's and it's hard to tell by the picture.
Christmas ornament?
Yeah, the Christmas ornament.
Yeah, it'll be, I think I saw a thing for it at the Hallmark store because I just got the Lego Boba Fett ornament. there, because that's this year. I try to get one or two every year of the Star Wars ones. I can't get them all. So this year I got the Lego Boba Fett, and then I saw that the Wampa was coming. But it's going to be really limited edition.
Have you seen it? Jason, have you seen the ornament?
I might have. I'm not remembering it though.
Okay.
Off the top of my head. But
it looks cool.
I mean, most of the Hallmark Star Wars ornaments are pretty awesome. I don't collect them. My focus is much more in the 3 3/4 inch figure vein, although I will get some of the Black Series. But I haven't been buying a lot of action figures recently because money, and not a lot of them are like things that I want to get right now. So I think there's a couple coming out that I'm going to have to get. I know I'm going to have to get the Luke, Return of the Jedi Luke 6-inch figure when that comes out. Because that's my favorite version of Luke, and I need a 6-inch action figure with a green lightsaber because those are the best ones.
Blue.
Everybody likes blue, and I don't understand.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite color, so I always veer towards blue. But I had to stop collecting action figures actually because I have over 600, and I have no room.
I understand that.
They were lined up on my wall. It looked like I had action figure wallpaper still because I keep them in mitten box.
Oh.
And I have some from my childhood, not many, because my mom sold a whole box of my Star Wars at a garage sale when I was 12. But yeah, I started collecting. I have to be really careful about what I collect now, and so I've been doing busts and statues and original artwork. Like I love supporting artists, and so in most of my fandoms I have collections and collections of original artwork. Not that I have the wall space. My laptop is sitting on the shelving unit, or the drawer unit that houses my 350 plus action figures. And right next to that, between my nightstand and the drawer unit, is 2 sleeves worth of art prints that I've gotten from my past 2 years at Phoenix Comic Con. Were you there this year?
I was there this year, yes.
I was too.
Oh, really? Where are you from?
I'm originally from Southern California, but I was living in Idaho at the time. I was there for about 5 years. I just last week moved to Tacoma, Washington. Oh,
wow. I was born in Tacoma, Washington.
Really? I'm living in Lakewood right now.
It's a small world after all. But yes, yeah. I was at awesome. Phoenix Comic Con.
I got some great art.
Friday,
I was mostly there for Coulson stuff, but
yes, Agent Coulson.
Mm-hmm. You were there Friday?
The Friday of the convention, I was cosplaying as the 4th Doctor. So that was a lot of fun. But
I think my friend might have taken a picture with you.
Excellent.
Yes. Good choice.
Thank you. And I was like, this is so great. I get to cosplay, and I don't buy anything because there's no way I'm carrying around plastic bags in costume. That's just stupid.
Exactly. So it violates the rules of cosplay.
It does.
And I like when I'm at a convention in my 501st uniform, it's like I'm a whole day where I'm not going to spend any money except on drinks, except on water and food, because I can't be seen as an Imperial officer carrying around a big stuffed animal.
Exactly.
Because it kind of you miss the allure of being an Imperial officer is like, oh look, she's carrying a big giant llama. Isn't that cute? No.
Yeah,
I didn't cosplay this year, so.
For me, one of the interesting things about Celebration or any kind of convention is, even if I rarely buy like collectibles, pretty much never, but like I'll just like go through and just look at all this stuff, look at all these, one convention I was at, I looked at like this one action figure, and it was like, I think it was like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, or maybe it was Superman or something, but it was like in the 4 digits or something. I'm like, wow.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
It's nice to go and see all the things you wish you could buy, and then go away heartbroken.
Exactly. Oh.
There was at Phoenix, I don't know if you saw it, Jason, but there was a guy who was selling a print of a Doctor Who print, and it had actors from Doctor Who. It was like had like 140 signatures on it.
Oh my goodness. I did
And it
not
was-
see that.
And the only one he didn't have, because he, well, obviously didn't have Capaldi, but he didn't, I stumped him. I said, "Do you have Hugh Bonneville on this?" And he said, "No, I don't." "Was he on Doctor Who?" I was like, "Yes." Darn it. I would have bought it for $2,500.
Oh my goodness, 2,500. Oh my goodness.
No, I wouldn't have.
Oh,
I don't take that kind of money to a con.
I don't.
I would end up with, a plane, extra suitcases. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Jonathan. That's part of the fun of a convention. And that's why I love going to them, is you get to walk around and you get to see all this amazing, all these amazing products that you didn't even know. Cause I mean, so many things they do are regional. Like, oh, okay, we're going to send this action figure to this part of the country and not this part of the country. And so it's a chance to get those things that didn't come to an area that you live in. And it's, you get to meet sometimes if you go into Artist Alley, you get to meet these amazing artists who are just as inspired as you are, but they have an artistic talent that they can express it in.
Yeah, I would really like to go to I'm blanking out at
Celebrations?
Kenobi Rancho
Obi-Wan.
Rancho Obi-Wan.
I think that would be
My
great.
dear friend Steve. I love Steve.
Steve Sansweet. Oh my goodness.
He's awesome. He was like, that guy, I asked for an autograph. He signed my ticket for the 6-movie marathon at Celebration 4.
Nice.
And I didn't even have to pay. And I got a picture with him. It was the most excited I've been to meet someone from the Star Wars world.
Oh my goodness. I would go and volunteer for a week to help them sort through boxes of stuff
Yes.
at Rancho Obi-Wan
Oh my
on my
God.
own dime, just to go there. Yeah.
Just based on what he used to bring just to Celebration, like there would be cases of stuff set up from on loan from Rancho Obi-Wan. And it was like all these amazing things. And some of them I'd had as a kid and I didn't have anymore. And it was just such a amazing walk down memory lane, so to speak. And yeah, just to go for a day, I don't think that would even be enough to see all of Rancho Obi-Wan. I mean, they brought the part they brought to Celebration 6 wasn't enough for me, and that was amazing. I waited in line for that.
My goodness.
I miss Steve. I missed him. He was such a nice man. Every time I talked to him at Comic-Con, he always remembered me. So.
Oh, that's cool.
He's still.
And so did Jeremy.
He's still alive. He's still.
Yeah, I
around.
know, but he's not the fan relations.
Okay.
He's not
Liaison.
working officially with Lucasfilm anymore.
No, he
Yeah.
retired.
Okay.
He hasn't been doing that for probably close to a decade now.
No, it was
Maybe like 5 years.
I remember talking to Obi Sean, who's pretty high up in the Star Wars fandom. His car has been at a lot of conventions.
Is he the one with the R2-D2 in the back of his car, and he drives dressed as Obi-Wan?
Yes, that's Obi Sean.
Okay.
And I was talking to him, and it was within the last 5 years, maybe. And he said that Steve Sansweet had contacted him about possibly taking over for him. So it was at least 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I remember I met him at the Tron Legacy store that Disney set up in LA for about 6 weeks. We were both there. So, yeah, it was. And he was amazing to talk to. Fellow 501st member. So we bonded. But yeah, the conventions, I highly recommend you, Jonathan, that you attend Celebration next year, because
I'm going to be a senior. Yeah, I'm going to be a senior, as I know you will, I think, Jason.
Yes.
So, and I live on the East Coast, so.
Yes, I know.
So.
If you could make it, I highly recommend it. I'm going to do everything in my power to be there. I know media registration for Celebration opens on the 15th of the month of this month.
Yeah, I was gonna try to see if I can get media.
Yeah, so that helps a little bit with the cost.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have stuff I'm doing around that time, so I don't know if I'm definitely going, but it's my priority is to make sure
I mean, if I don't have a Friday and Sunday classes, and I only have all my classes are like in the middle of the week, maybe, but I mean,
I understand.
Yeah, I did go to
You
Celebration.
gotta go to at least one.
Yeah, I went to Celebration 5, not 6 because I had to go to school. So all
Make
schools,
me feel old.
unfortunately, all schools, not school. I mean college.
Yes, I know.
Oh, okay.
I'm a school teacher, so I understand why.
Okay.
So, hopefully I'll be able to get time off.
Unfortunately, like college, I wish colleges would start around the same time so they could schedule it, but it's just impossible.
I think for Celebration 6, it was like the first week of classes. Or
Yeah,
like
it was.
the second week of classes for me.
It was mid-August.
Mid-August. So. Maybe it was like
it was mid to late August, so it was like I want to say 22nd.
No, so the first day of classes for me was the Monday after Celebration.
Yeah.
So I went to Celebration and was like, and we're in school. So,
yeah.
I think mine was
a good one.
So yeah. So that one. That was the first convention I'd been to, like convention period. So
yeah. I'd gone to San Diego, for a decade and a half, and then I remember going to the first Celebration in Colorado. It was what we call Mudstock because it was outside. It rained a lot.
I've heard horror stories about that one,
but I had gone to conventions before. We had an official celebration, like Star Wars fan club stuff and X-Files conventions and stuff like that.
I'm probably going to be going to the Tucson Comic Con next month. Is it next month? Yeah, I think it's next month. And yeah, so it's a small convention, but hey, it's in my backyard and it's not going to cost me very much.
Well, we've got Emerald City up here now that I am going to hopefully get to go to in March.
I hope they get some Star Wars actors there, because last time I checked, there's no Star Wars guests going there. So.
Well, we've got 6 months. So
yeah.
Plus, the movie's gonna be coming out.
Are we talking
at the end of the year?
Celebration?
Oh no, I was talking about
Celebration. Emerald City.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that because I was referring to Emerald City because I figured we could get like her a press pass and then she could like interview some actors. And I'm hoping.
Well, there's always people on the floor. Like the chick who plays Aura Singh is always at a convention selling her autograph for $35, even though she's in the movie for like a second. I'm not bitter. I'm really not.
She's not bitter at all.
No,
not at all.
So I think, and I think characters like her, they were expanded like in the Clone Wars, which was one thing that was great about the Clone Wars is that even if we only got them a little bit in the movies, they would expand it on in the series.
Yeah. But at the time, she was like supposed to be this, oh my gosh, she's this bounty hunter character, and we're going to see lots of her. And I remember I used to work at a bookstore at the time, and we got these big book sets, and they were kind of shaped like squared off Vaders. It was like a trapezoidal shape, and you opened it up, and there was a figure, there was a doll, like a 12-inch, and there was a book.
Oh,
and they did Vader, C-3PO, and Aura Singh. And I had all three of them because I worked for the bookstore, so I got them a lot cheaper. And then they went on the remainder table like 3 months later and were like $10.
I have the C-3PO one of that.
And they're really cool sets. But I was expecting a lot more for Aura Singh because they pimped her so much. It was like, here, look at this great character. This is what we're going to give you. She's going to be very important. And then it was like, and she's watching a pod race. And basically you see her and then you don't. And that's kind of always bothered me about like that character. It's like, well, we did not know we were going to have Clone Wars at this time. This is before the prequels, Yeah. So it's like, what were we going to see? What is there missing footage? Is there unseen stuff that George hasn't tampered with? Please, like, explain to me why she's so important that I had to have this box with her doll.
They were going to make her the Boba Fett of the Phantom Menace.
Never.
I mean,
That makes sense, though.
You're right.
That makes sense to me. I
In
don't
for
like
2
it.
seconds, and everybody loves the character.
Yeah, didn't really happen that way for her. She didn't have that strong, silent, mysterious thing that the Fett had going on.
She's not, not doing too bad for herself in the fandom community, that's for sure.
That's for sure. But how do you think we're gonna? What do you think about a Boba Fett standalone film?
Oh goodness, I've said this before, and I don't particularly. I'll watch it if they have one that comes out. I will watch it. Don't get me wrong. I will be one of the first people in line to go see it. I would much rather have something like an Obi-Wan or because
well, they are talking about it.
I hope that comes to pass. Oh my gosh, I hope that
Ewan says he'll do it. So
exactly, and I'm so hoping that happens. I want to see that. I know they've talked about maybe there being a Rogue Squadron standalone, which I would be like, yes, and then spin it off into a TV series.
Oh, if only. But I want Wedge back, and he's not coming back. So.
No, they'd have to
hire
another
Wedge.
actor.
But Dennis, he's always going to be Wedge to me.
Well,
I'm one of those girls. I was one of those fans who was part of the cult of Wedge.
Yeah,
I love that character.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a cult of Wedge or anything. I didn't know there was such a big. Didn't know Wedge was such a big deal until I started hearing about him. I'm like, okay.
He's awesome.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Wedge Antilles fan. But if we have to get another actor to get Wedge Antilles in episode 7, I will be all for it because he will be 30 years older, and it doesn't matter that it's not the same guy because we get somebody who looks like an old version of Dennis Lawson did in Return of the Jedi. So I'm like, yes, let's do that. So
yeah, as much as I love the idea of Dennis Lawson, like of anybody coming back to reprise a character, I just want Wedge to be in a film. I just love that character, and he's the reason I read the Rogue Squadron books. And not all of them are great. And I've said this before, not all the Star Wars novels are good.
No. Although on the whole, I'm going to say the X-Wing series is probably my favorite series.
Yes. I will agree with you on that totally. I think the X-Wing series is definitely the best of the blocks of books. But yeah, I would love a Rogue Squadron film. I would love a Han Solo film because I think there's so much we don't know. I mean, because they've jettisoned the EU as legends.
My only issue with a Han Solo movie is how are you going to get Han Solo without Harrison Ford?
Right.
And that's my issue.
The only way I could see them doing this, and I get this question a lot because I'm very well known that I'm a huge Han fan, is they would have to do it when he's a child, like a 15, 16-year-old kid. Yeah. And people are talking about like Zac Efron, and I'm like, oh no, things will explode and blow up if that happens. I want a Garrett Hedlund, but he's the same age Harrison was when Harrison was in A New Hope. So even if he looks,
I heard somebody say that if he wasn't as old as he was right now, they would have loved to see Nathan Fillion do Han Solo. Which I'm like, yes, we could do that.
Yes, but he's older than
exactly.
Harrison
He's
was,
now in
in Return of the Jedi. He's 43
something
right now.
like that. He's in his 40s, and
not that that's a bad thing, but he's too old to play Han.
Exactly. So my thing is, if we get a Han Solo standalone movie, I would like it to be, let's get the introduction of Han meeting Chewbacca.
Oh yes.
Let's tell that story.
Yes, because as far as I know, they haven't gotten rid of that story because that's pretty canon.
Well, I mean,
how they met.
They met. That's all we really know at this point. As far as I'm aware, everything that has come pretty much before A New Dawn is now considered legends, and so
I love the story of how they met though, and that's the hardest thing for me to be able to let go of.
Right. And
the fact that he was an Imperial, cadet, and he saved the Wookiees.
Right.
And he saved Chewbacca, and Chewbacca owed him a life debt, which is why I was so pissed when they killed him off, which thankfully that's gone away.
Yes.
And even though he died saving Anakin, and then Anakin died the next book anyway.
Yeah.
Not fond of that decision, but I would like to see that would be an amazing story to see because Chewbacca was like 200, between 200 and 300. I don't know if they ever gave us the specific age.
I think they said he was over 200.
He was over 200 when we meet him in A New Hope. So who knows? And the Empire had only been around about 18 years by that point because based on Luke and Leia's age. had only been in power that long as the Empire. So if we could take that back 10, 15 years, we could have an 18-year-old Han Solo.
Right.
And who could play Han? Who would? That I could see, as long as you have an actor who embodies what Han is and kind of resembles Harrison. Doesn't have to look like him exactly, obviously, but to me it's more about embodying the character and everything Han is, rather than looking like Harrison. As well, Garrett Hedlund looks a lot like Harrison. He also, to me, embodies he also can play that kind of character. It's like the character he played in Tron Legacy.
Yeah.
So, but yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi film, please.
Yeah, for me, I think even people who weren't crazy about the prequels, they still love Ewan. And for me, that was definitely the best part. And of Ewan,
loved it.
Of Obi-Wan's, like, sarcasm with Anakin. And
He was so careful so that he didn't overplay it to the point where it didn't take away from Sir Alec Guinness's portrayal. He was so faithful to Sir Alec. I was on Hyperspace. They had these video clips and they showed one of the reasons they cast Ewan, and they overlaid a picture of him with a picture of Sir Alec, and it was uncanny.
Yeah. They
had the same nose bridge, their eyes were the same spacing, and he really does look a lot like Sir Alec did, even when he was younger. And I've seen some of the earlier films. I think he was the absolute perfect casting. He was the most perfectly cast actor in that entire prequel trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you could have cast anybody else, and I loved Obi-Wan before. I love him even more now. And not just because it's Ewan, who I've always been a fan of, but because he was the exact right actor. He looked the part, and he respected where it came from. He's a Star Wars fan. And
I just love the fact that when he got his lightsaber for the first time in the Phantom Menace, he takes it on set and they're shooting, and they have to stop and say, Ewan, we'll put the sound effects in post-production.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, yes!
When your uncle is Wedge, you're gonna play Star Wars, of course.
Exactly.
And the fact that he used to say, and he hasn't said it for a while, but he said on an interview on Top Gear, he said he considers there's two sets of Star Wars films. There's the originals, which everybody loves, and everybody, that started it all. And then there's ones he was in. He really liked Revenge of the Sith, and that's like my number 2 of all time. So, but I think he respects it so much, and he's the first one who said, when everybody's like, "Oh, what are you going to do? Have you been contacted about these new Star Wars films?" When the news just broke, and he's like, I was told that this was going to happen. I was told about the sale of Lucasfilm, but if they want me back, I'll come back. I'm happy to do it. I loved it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So many actors won't do that. And I think Star Wars engenders a kind of loyalty. And finally, Harrison kind of got the memo on that. As much as I love that man, he's one of my favorite actors. He didn't talk about Star Wars for a long time because he wanted to distance himself. But now he understands that's basically what made his career. And Ewan didn't need that. Ewan already had a really successful career when he did Star Wars. It wasn't like he was Natalie Portman or Hayden Christensen where he was up and coming.
Right. Of course, Natalie Portman's gone on to just blow everybody's minds out of the water.
Right. Well, her first film in The Professional.
Yes.
Amazing film if you haven't seen it.
Yes.
She is unbelievable. She was like 12.
Yeah.
She was incredible. I highly recommend Leon the Professional with some French Jean-Luc. I can't remember the name.
Jean-Luc Picard. Wait, I'm sorry.
No. Well, if we're gonna do, he would be the captain I would pick. But yeah. So the idea of these standalone films makes me happy in some way, but I kind of still want them to space the canon, like the episodes, the official episodes, 3 years apart. Because to me, there is something about tradition. That's why I'm more upset over the release date for episode 7 than I am about anything, because it's December and not May. And I know it's a really petty thing to be pissed about, but to me, May is Star Wars.
See, I come from two minds on the release date. I love the fact that they came out in May because my birthday is May 14th, same as George Lucas.
Yes.
And so it would always come out for the weekend after my birthday, and we'd go see Star Wars. Of course, I'd insist we'd go like the first day they came out, but but one of my other big things is I love the Hobbit movies, and those have been super successful every December. And I'm like, great. I've had all my summer blockbusters. I've had time to recover from that, and then I get this awesome movie at the end of the year to sort of close things out. And after this year, we're not going to have that anymore. So I'm glad that we're going to have Star Wars in that slot. Now, I don't think they're going to stay there. I think they're going to work them back up into summer eventually. I don't know if they'll do it, right afterwards with the next release, but I think they'll work the movies back into a summer release schedule, just simply because summer blockbusters and Disney wants to have their big movies there,
Well, yeah, because now that they own Marvel, they have double the blockbusters.
Exactly. They just have to space their Marvel movies and the Star Wars movies, a month to 6 weeks apart so that they aren't stealing from each other.
You don't want them competing, because it's really, you're competing for the same audience.
Pretty much, because I'm a huge Marvel fan as well as, but Star Wars is number one. But I can understand them not wanting to go up against the juggernaut of the Avengers this year, or in 2015. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go up against it either. If I had a movie anywhere being released anywhere near there, I'd be like, please move it up or back by like a month.
Yeah, like
nobody wants to go up against Marvel.
Yeah, and no one wants to go up against Star Wars either, because they moved the Warcraft from, it was going to come out I think the day episode 7's coming out, and they decided to move it to March 2016. So
probably a good move.
And that movie is in post-production, so it's just going to be hanging around,
waiting,
kind of like Batman v Superman. That's going to be sitting around for a while.
That could sit around.
So,
or as Steve Lawson likes to say, Batman 5, Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
He thinks the name is the stupidest thing about the movie.
Well, yes, that's one of the stupidest things about the movie. But I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan. She is my number one superhero ever, and I am so upset. So that's that. But nobody wants to go up against any of them, and
see the
after
thing
the
is,
Hobbit leaves, we're gonna be left with no more. Well, we've got Harry Potter coming in a few years, so.
Got Harry Potter coming back.
The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Oh, that's a new book coming out, right?
No, she wrote it between 3 and 4. The books 3 and 4. There were 2 books that she released for charity.
Oh.
One was Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is one of the textbooks that the kids use by Newt Scamander. You're talking to a Potterhead. And the second was Quidditch Through the Ages, which is a book Harry reads because he joins the Quidditch team. So what JKR is doing is she's writing 3 screenplays based on Fantastic Beasts to make it a trilogy, and they're going to film them. They're going to be movies.
Interesting.
Yes, I'm very excited about this. I love Harry Potter.
See, the thing with Star Wars coming out is, at this point, with it, episode 7 coming out, with the fact that it's been, it'll be about a decade since any Star Wars movie has been in the theater. And
2003.
Yeah, and
2005. So
2005.
Yeah.
2005, and then
I miscounted.
30 years after the movie that it's supposed to be following. People are just, and of course George Lucas is not involved with it, so people are just going to want to see it to find out, does it stand up? I mean, how are they going to do this thing now?
Right.
So even if they're not like huge Star Wars fans,
it will bring more people.
It'll bring a whole bunch of people, because they're going to be like, is this going to work? Is this new Star Wars formula that they're working up going to work?
And then you have the J.J. Abrams haters and the lovers who are going to go see it because it's J.J.
Right.
And then the people who hate J.J. who want to see it because they want to see him overuse lens flares, which he said he's not using. So
Yeah, there are some.
that was a Star Trek thing, not Star Wars. He's already promised that was Star Trek.
There were a few lens flares in Star Wars, though. I remember specifically, we got a couple of them in the Phantom Menace with the Queen's Royal Starship flying through space.
We did. Yes, there were a couple. That was, George using his, getting his little fingers in the technology. He wanted to show what he could do. And that's kind of what Star Wars has been, is George showing us what films can be, what we can do with technology, and seeing the technology progress. And then to see how it's impacted the world on a different level. Like now the use of prosthetics has been, in the development of prosthetics has been definitely advanced because of what happened, because of Star Wars. Energy weapons and all of these other things that we didn't think were possible have inspired scientists to say, we can do this now. We have the technology to make these things happen.
Right.
And that's what I think is the real legacy of Star Wars, is how much it's impacted our culture, not just pop culture, but our culture and our world for the better.
Indeed.
Yeah. I was just thinking that same thing of, even if people didn't like it, like I heard one person's like, I hate the prequels and yada yada, but I still love just looking at the effects, and just what they can do, what they did, what they accomplished in that, just in the Phantom Menace with Jar Jar Binks. I mean, that was a revolution.
Oh yeah.
That was one of the first performance captures. I mean, that wasn't just motion.
It was
that
the
was
first.
Performance. Yeah.
It was the first. See, everybody likes to give the credit.
Gollum.
Everybody loves to give the credit to Gollum and Andy Serkis, and he deserves a lot of credit for what he did.
Totally.
But Jar Jar did it first.
That was Ahmed Best did the first performance capture that was on in a major motion picture and any motion picture. And what they did was Weta took that technology and they improved it.
Exactly.
And they streamlined it. And Andy Serkis, they didn't know he was going to be that flexible and that nimble. He was just a really great actor who they wanted to put in that role and do the voice. And who knew that they were going to make Gollum look like Andy? Because if you've seen the behind the scenes on The Hobbit, like on an Unexpected Journey, they really get into his pores. Like they like match Gollum's pores to Andy's pores. And I'm like, what the heck? That's so creepy, but it's so cool. So, I mean, thanks to George and Star Wars, and Peter Jackson loves Star Wars, and he'd be the first one to give credit where credit's due.
Yep.
And say, this is because of George Lucas. We would not have movies like The Hobbit the way they are, or The Lord of the Rings the way they are.
Exactly.
They'd be different,
And Andy Serkis, of course, is coming to Star Wars, so it comes full circle.
Yes. And
so happy. My favorite of the casting announcements of the new people added to Star Wars Episode 7 was Andy Serkis. I was like,
definitely. I was kind of hoping we'd see him as him, because he's such a wonderful actor on his own, and coming off of course, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which was so amazing. I really wanted to see him, and I understand why you would hire Andy, why people want Andy so badly, is because he's a genius at what he does, and he's got this new company, Imaginarium, where they're really working even more on the technology. But I kind of wanted to see Andy,
Right.
But I know somebody in the cast recently was at Imaginarium, so they're definitely doing some work on Episode 7. So I think they're probably working. I think Andy's company might be doing the motion capture.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, the best.
I know, team up Imaginarium and ILM. I mean, how can you go wrong?
Just add Weta to the list, and I mean, that's the greatest film ever made. Serious. We need to get Weta in there to build props and stuff. Oh my god. I mean, I'm having a fan moment. I'm having a fangirl squee moment right now, just thinking about what that would be. Oh my god, that would be fantastic. Can they redo Tron? No, Tron is perfect. Never mind. We do Tron Legacy? No, that was perfect too. See, I'm one of those people who loves Tron Legacy, so because I
haven't
love
seen
Tron.
it.
Oh, okay.
I'm
a huge Tron fan, so I will always defend that movie.
I've just never gotten around to seeing them. So
they're fun. It's interesting between Tron and Tron Legacy. Like Tron was made in '82, just to see the computers, the way they looked in 1982, and just that it was like, oh my god, what are they working on? A Commodore 64? I don't even think my school had ones that had computers that old. It was just like, it was great. Anyway, no more about Tron. We're here for Star Wars.
yes.
I think one of the things I was most excited with as far as the new cast was Max von Sydow. I'm pretty sure that's
Sydow.
Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow.
Who really goes back to like these old classics, the Swedish films like I'm trying to think. It's
Well, he's also a Shakespearean actor, which I love. He did a version of Hamlet that was actually pretty good. But yeah, you're talking about the Ingmar Bergman films?
Yes, the Bergman films.
Yeah, I mean, if you like films, like, I mean, Ingmar Bergman inspires a certain type of fan. Like, really hardcore film students really love Ingmar Bergman. I do. But they can be very dark and depressing.
Yes, they are. They can be. Yes, we watched.
It's basically like a chess game with nobody talking.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
The Seventh Seal.
Seventh Seal, yes.
Yes, I've seen.
That is a fantastic film.
Yes.
I'm not very familiar with his work. I'm sure I've seen him in something before, but
The Exorcist.
I have not seen that, and I'm debating as to whether or not I want to, simply because my imagination runs away with me, and if I'm not careful, I'm going to watch something and give myself nightmares for weeks. That's just my imagination.
Have you seen the original Flash Gordon film?
No, I haven't. But I think
I highly recommend it.
It does not hold up, but it is a lot of fun.
Oh god, it's so fantastic.
But it's a lot of a lot of fun.
He's in that. So.
But the thing is he gives off that feel of a Christopher Lee or a Peter Cushing, and I know I'm not the first person to say that, but I really like, or even an Alec Guinness. He's whether or not
he's at the same school,
right,
of acting as those classic actors, and we need one.
And Ian McDiarmid. Oh my gosh,
yes.
Maybe he's going to be the next Ian McDiarmid. My goodness.
Has Ian said that they? Oh no, he wouldn't be in this.
He wouldn't be in this. Although I think he said that if they do a film involving Palpatine, he'd be willing to come back.
Yeah, he said that at Celebration. Were you at the panel? His Q&A.
I had to duck out of the panel early because I was going to the 100th episode of Frontlines, the Clone Wars podcast, because I was part of that whole group doing that, and
gotcha.
Yeah, McDermott's panel got started late, and so we had to duck out early.
All the panels kind of started late. But yeah, it was a great panel, and yeah, he said something at the time that, I mean, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't find out till a couple months later that this was going to happen, but he did say, he loved playing the character and he would love to reprise it, and if and it was his first con, so it was really cool to be there. To see it. So I hope that they use him in some capacity, like an echo of some kind. But I think Max von Sydow brings kind of the Obi-Wan-esque character to it. He's the older character, and whether he's a good guy, whether he's Jedi, whether he's Sith, good or bad, he's an amazing actor, and they're really, really incredibly lucky that they have him.
Yeah.
Because we really didn't have one. We kind of had Ian McDiarmid for the prequels, but we also had Liam Neeson, who's kind of that kind of quality actor.
Right. And Christopher Lee.
Oh my god, don't get me started on Christopher Lee.
Sir Christopher Lee.
Oh yes. God. The fact that
I am Dracula.
You have no idea. I'm a huge Christopher Lee fan, like from the time I was a kid.
I have become a Christopher Lee fan, so that's partly why I've practiced his voice so much. Anyway,
He's amazing. And thankfully, we had him in Star Wars.
yes, and he's been able to keep going on to give us more stuff for the Hobbit movies.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see him wield his magic staff in Battle of the Five Armies.
It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. And I love how Peter Jackson's just so accommodating to him.
Yes.
He'll do anything. He flies to England. They bring Seth with them just so Sir Christopher doesn't have to fly.
Right. Because
he is 93.
Yes, he's 93, and that is not exactly young anymore. So
no. If we could get him in Star Wars in the next trilogy.
Bring back Christopher Lee.
I will start an online petition to find a place for Christopher Lee, even a voiceover.
Oh my!
I mean, the man did two heavy metal albums. He can do a voiceover for something for me, for Star Wars. But yeah, love him. I mean, George definitely picked good actors. He's really good at spotting good actors, even though, and I know he didn't want to use Harrison at first, but because he'd used him in American Graffiti. But man, I am so glad we didn't. I mean, as much as I love the man, we did not get Christopher Walken as Han Solo.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my gosh!
I do love Walken, but man, no.
I cannot imagine that.
She can make 0.5 past light speed. You know. Oh
yeah,
goodness!
It's a ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
In less than
12
parsecs. Okay, stop it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not.
On the episode of Rebels, did anyone else get a little tingle when they said Kessel? On Rebels, I was like, oh my god, it's Kessel. We're gonna go see Kessel.
I think it's the first time I've actually seen Kessel. So
yeah, it's the first time we've seen Kessel in Star Wars. We've only heard about it, and I was like, oh my god, we're going to see Kessel. I was like, how long did it take to get them there? Even though parsec is not a unit of time, it's a unit of distance.
I love how they call that out on the Blue Harvest. Blue Harvest.
Oh, Blue Harvest, yeah.
Yes. They explained that in a book. I don't remember which book it was, but they explained that because the Kessel Run takes you through an area that's got a bunch of I think it's nebula. It's like a big nebula laden area.
Is it the guide to the planets?
He cut really close to the nebulas in order to cut off distance, which most ships either were unable to or the pilots did not want to do. Right. So that was the explanation.
Yeah,
I think I read that. It was it the Science of Star Wars or was it the Guide to the Planets or something?
I don't remember. I think he talked about it in one of the novels too. Yeah. So, I think that's where I read it.
It just, I love when shows like Clone Wars or now Rebels give us glimpses of the old, of the things we love the most. You know, like seeing Kessel, and I love that Ralph McQuarrie's drawings were the basis for like Zeb, who's looks like Chewbacca was supposed to, and
I love the
and I just the little hints and little nods to history. I really love when they respect where they come from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite character in Rebels? You say
Chopper.
Yes.
Chopper. My favorite character in Star Wars period is R2-D2. So I was already biased going into Rebels that Chopper was going to be my favorite.
Droid lover, you.
Well, a little bit. At least Astromech.
He's my number 3, so I understand.
R2 and 3PO are like my number 1 and 2, and then I don't know where it goes from there. That fluctuates, but so going into Rebels, I was already sure that Chopper was going to be my favorite, and then after watching the premiere and then the new episode, which technically hasn't aired yet, but is out there for iTunes or Watch Disney XD app. That episode made me so happy with everything going on. I think I like that even more than the premiere. I loved seeing my little R2 again.
I actually kind of
R2 and
jumped on
Chopper
that.
fighting and squabbling the entire episode was the best.
I love Chopper's little his little fingers, so to
Yes.
speak. He's always like.
Okay. I had a little geek out moment watching the premiere with my friend, and I made him rewind it so I could double check. But when they're deciding, when they're on the ghost and they're deciding whether or not to go back for Ezra, spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't seen this, but it's not really that big of a deal. But when they're voting, and Hera says, "Okay, that's 2 and 2. You've got the final vote, Kanan." If you watch Chopper, he's got his little fingers up on both sides, like he's got the votes tallied, 2 and 2. And I'm like, I was like, yes, that's great. So
I loved it. I caught that too. I was like, oh my gosh. And he's just like, he uses them to talk. He like most people use their hands. Like I'm using my hands right now, making the little fingers, that Chopper does. I love that they've kind of as personified and anthropomorphized as R2 was, and not really a whole lot, just in his attitude mostly, where we got some human quality to him. But I love that Chopper is they've added this little affectation to him, and I think it makes him so much more interactive.
I think he's an Italian astromech because he talks with his hands.
And only 2 people understand what he's saying. It's like,
right.
Because Sabine seems to understand and Hera understands him. And then, of course, C-3PO when he comes aboard. But I love the little thing at the end with one of their former owners. I'm not going to say because it's a spoiler.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I know a lot,
yes.
lot of listeners haven't. I think one of my favorite things is in that episode is just when Chopper is poking at Ezra. That just cracked me up.
That was awesome.
And Chopper's my number 2 after Zeb, because I think
Zeb is great too. They're
Zeb
all great. I mean, honestly, the more I watch the show, the more I'm convinced Hera is going to become my favorite female character in all Star Wars.
Did anybody else? Oh wait, this was on the droids episode, but what she called Kanan? She called him Love.
She called him that in the premiere.
I didn't catch that, but I was like, ooh, what's going on here? And I think they have more well-rounded characters. I mean, I've never seen an animated series begin with characters that are so well established and well-rounded already. Right. And they were really smart in developing these characters that way. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And have you read A New Dawn?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. They do explore that whole idea that Kanan and Hera are probably in a relationship. They haven't come out outright and said that in Rebels yet, but she calls him Love. So, and yeah.
Is it just like how people throw around sweetie, or is it,
Right.
Because
I think
you might want to keep that on the down low.
And for the British, I think a guy will say to the girl, "Hello there, love," but never really the girl, so it's like, it's never really the other way around.
Yeah.
Right. They just have to be really careful because not the people making the show, the characters who are animated have to be very careful with revealing a relationship because that could be used as a weakness.
Right.
So make sure the animated characters know that.
Yes. Exactly.
I mean, in one of those little shorts, Rebels shorts, we had.
Oh yes.
What was it? I think Chopper or who walked in?
Chopper.
Yeah, Chopper walked in on their little moment.
Yes, that was the Machine and the Ghost short, I think, where Chopper finally got fed up ferrying messages back and forth that he just decided to take out the TIE fighter himself.
Yeah.
I love it because he's like their kid almost.
Yeah.
It's great.
But he's also like more like their foster kid, because he's like, oh, come on, because nobody's gonna get in the middle of their parents, but like a nephew or a foster kid or an adoptive kid is gonna be like, seriously, people,
Exactly.
Really, you're making me do what? No, just here, lock you in a closet and I'll do it myself. We're kind of being attacked.
Exactly.
You go take care of your little love fest. I'm gonna go shoot things and save us all. So yeah, I think they have a really great family dynamic in the whole crew. And as much as I love, the originals, we didn't really get to spend a whole lot of time on the Falcon with everybody, like having a family relationship. We didn't have that, mom and dad are fighting again kind of thing. Because we weren't really on the ship that long with them.
Right.
They were kind of stopping here and there, and they developed that kind of a relationship, Han and Leia did, but we really didn't see a lot of that happening. And I kind of like the fact that we're seeing them more in this environment, this space, like flying from here to there. Like, didn't really get a lot of that in the films of just what's going on while we're flying. See, who's cooking dinner?
Right.
And okay, who has the remote? So we didn't get a lot of like family bonding kind of thing. And I think what makes these characters on Rebels are kind of in a similar situation is that they're rebels, just like the Rebel Alliance. And I liked seeing the little glimmers of the logo of, the Rebel Alliance here and there. Because I have a tattoo of it, and I was like, look, it's my tattoo. But I really like seeing how these characters have kind of taken Ezra in, and they're kind of coming together to protect each other rather than anybody being out for their own interests.
See, I think kind of like the Clone Wars was seen through Ahsoka's eye. I think this Rebel show, I think it's going to be seen through Ezra's eyes, because he's seen like this whole other world.
Well, he's the kid, and he's the one that the kids are going to relate to.
Yeah.
Whereas we might relate to Chopper or Hera or Sabine or Zeb for you, Jonathan.
Yes.
But I think for what Star Wars has been incredibly smart is they've always had a character a kid could get behind.
Yeah.
Like a kid could relate to.
Somebody that is stands where the audience stands.
Right, exactly. Like a companion in Doctor Who.
Yes.
So to speak. Or, you need somebody who's going to be the audience, for the audience. And Star Wars does that brilliantly, to me.
Yes, exactly.
Because I think R2 is kind of us in a lot of ways, because he gets exasperated with the shenanigans. Not like C-3PO does, where he's like, where he throws a hissy fit. And I love 3PO, and I love Anthony Daniels. The man is just like up there on a pedestal for me. And loved hearing his voice again. But I think R2 really was kind of the embodiment of, are you serious? Are you kidding me? This is what's going on now? Oh my God, let me just put my little pokey thing in there and fix this. Because he was like, why? I was like, oh, we need to get out of here. And the only one doing anything was R2 about it. And I was like, yes. So I think R2 was and then in the prequels, I think we had Anakin to some extent, who was, who the kids could latch onto, even though they wanted it to be Jar Jar. I don't know any kids who actually liked Jar Jar. So
that would have been me.
And I'm a teacher, and I had, students who love Star Wars and, who talked about it with me, and they all kind of related more to Anakin. So I like that Star Wars has somebody that for everybody to kind of bond with. So.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember when Attack of the Clones came out, I bought the tickets for opening night for midnight at Downtown Disney. And I was sitting in my classroom, and my students they're teaching second grade. My students were all working, and it was very quiet, which was not very usual. And I looked at my plan book, and I was looking at the weeks ahead, and I just went, oh my God, Star Wars comes out on open house, the night of open house.
Uh-oh.
And my kids just looked, and I said it out loud, and just looked at me and said, oh my God, what are you going to do? Every single one of them knew that this was like the biggest decision of my life. They're like, oh my God, Miss Amy, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I have no idea. So what happened was I got the tickets for the midnight showing, and we were going to get in line at a certain time. And my kids all told their parents, we have to leave. We have to get there early and leave early so Miss Amy can go to see Star Wars. I didn't know they said this. I didn't know they did this. I did not ask them to tell their parents this, but every single parent who walked into that room that night was like, I know you have Star Wars tickets. So we're going to be quick. And I was like, yes, here's all your children's work. Get out. It was basically what I wanted to do, but I didn't because our tickets were for midnight. So open house ended at like 9. But still, it was like, yeah, that's
awesome.
My students are always awesome. But yeah, so, and they were really excited because the next day they were like, how was it? And I said, it was very good. And one of the kids asked, is Jar Jar in it? And I said, briefly. And he went, okay, good. I was like, oh, come on. Go stand next to the Jar Jar cutout and say you're sorry. Because, yes, I did have one because I worked at a bookstore and we had all of those things. And I got them all when the displays came down.
I'm very happy right now.
I wish I still had it. I would send it to you. It was very big. It was like a growth thing. It was like, are you this tall? It was a big Jar Jar thing. And I was like, why did I take this again? But, yeah, it was fun.
I think one thing interesting as far as Rebels goes is that apparently there is a report that on ABC October 26th they're going to re-air Rebels and it's going to feature a Darth Vader scene. Not confirmed, but there is a report. So I think that would be pretty sweet to have probably like at the very end or something. But I think there is talk. Is it going to be James Earl Jones? Are they going to get someone else?
Is it just going to be? I would take that. I read that and I think it's very smart for them to do that because we are in a universe where Darth Vader is now pretty much the leader of the Empire, a step down from Emperor, but
right.
I think it makes sense.
See, my take on that is, while I'm sure it would be a very smart move for them to do that in order to get more people to watch it and, have the success of the show, continue to skyrocket, I would have saved Darth Vader for the season finale.
Oh, good point.
Don't even maybe mention him, but don't show him at all until the season finale. That would have been my idea, but
that's really, really smart, actually. And we don't know what we're going to see of him, and maybe it will just be a gloved hand or something. But I think
maybe the rumor's wrong.
Maybe it's just a rumor.
Yeah.
Maybe a rumor is just a rumor.
Yeah, that's.
But I think
it's
really smart idea you had. Save for them, and you cannot not mention Darth Vader in this universe because everybody knows who he is in this universe. He is the man who took down, with the Emperor, took down the Galactic Senate and is hunting all the Jedi. So people are going to know who he is. He's going to be a presence no matter where we go in this galaxy, whether we see him or not.
Right.
So I said, even if we just get the breathing sound, as an asthmatic myself, I like to praise Darth Vader for bringing awareness to asthma. And hopefully we can get some more research going to find a cure. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I'm kind of hoping they do that now. I'm kind of like, well, I don't want to see him yet. You've changed my mind. That's very hard to do.
Well, don't get me wrong. I won't be disappointed if I see him. But I would have just saved him for later.
Yeah.
Build up the anticipation.
Yeah,
I think if anything, we'll
part of Vader.
I mean, I think with anything, we'll see the Inquisitor talking to like a small hologram of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how the agent, what was his name again?
Agent Callus.
Callus was talking to the Inquisitor like a small hologram size. I think that's a possibility.
Can we talk about Callus for a sec? That guy is awesome.
You mean Agent Mutton Chops Callus?
Yes, I was just going to say, and those sideburns. I mean, those are the most magnificent sideburns I've ever seen. But that character just totally drew me in. I really, if I had to pick a character I loved besides our crew, it would be him. I mean, because we haven't really met the Inquisitor yet, and I know I'm going to love him because it's Jason Isaacs. And I love characters like that. But, oh my God, he's such a great character. And evil.
Yeah. No, I mean
he just kicked that poor stormtrooper.
I laughed so hard when that happened the first time. I saw that for the first time.
I did too, and I was like, oh my God, they really are killing a lot of people for a kid show. They
But
killed a lot of stormtroopers
yes,
in this episode,
yes, they-
and the stormtroopers killed no one
Yeah.
right.
because they can't. But I thought this is a great character. Can we get him in the movies? Or wait, it's too late. Crap. I loved him. I loved the guy. Whoever is doing his voice is fantastic. It's I know his name. I can't pronounce. Anyway, he's a really great actor, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of the classic British villains.
Yeah.
Really loved it. So I just wanted to say I love Callus, and if he wants to stick around, yes, please.
I liked him because, yes, our heroes did win. They got away. They're still hanging around out there. But he's somebody that, even though it looks like he's going to be the one that runs up against them the most,
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like he's a threat.
Yes.
So
You cannot take him in
Take him-
any way but seriously. You have
Right.
to, you cannot underestimate him. He will always be there, and he has no moral compass from what I can see. I mean, that poor stormtrooper. And I was just like, and I like some of the stormtroopers they used, because some of them had really kind of cool lines and stuff, and I like stormtroopers. But I really like that he's going to be our primary kind of bad guy, whereas the Inquisitor is the big bad for our purposes,
right.
aside from the Empire, of course. But I'm looking forward to meeting the Inquisitor, because I think he's a very interesting looking character, and I love the actor who does his voice, because he has such a menacing quality, but yet still kind of lulls you in. Like, oh, yes, listen to your voice, and now you're going to kill me. Okay.
Don't worry. Help is on the way.
So I think the bad guys are really going to be a lot more interesting than I expected.
Yeah.
They're not going to be one note bad guys. So, and I like that Zeb is kind of skirting the line, shall we say?
Yeah, I really
Because
like
I think those are the more interesting characters.
Yes,
to me.
I really like how he tried to pass for a Wookiee.
That to me, I sent a nod of recognition to Ralph McQuarrie, wherever he is. Because I was like, that was for you.
What, haven't you ever seen a rare hairless Wookiee? Oh, forget it.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by his homeworld and by his people, and I look, I'm hoping we'll get some more information about them and maybe go see what we can, because apparently it's kind of not there anymore.
Right.
But I'm hoping for some canon information about the places in Clone Wars or in Rebels, like we have for the Star Wars universe, the main Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the ship designs is what intrigues me the most, as far as the design goes. You know, you just see, and I think that was just from like the first little video clip we saw way back of, just the Star Destroyer, like just going past the screen, and it was like, wow. And then we saw like a TIE fighter.
I love the Ghost. I think the Ghost design, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Falcon and a Snowspeeder at the same time. And I think they're very smart is to keep it as far away from the original trilogy ships, but still like give us a little hint to the design of the day. Like, okay, this might evolve to become this. Like the TIE fighters look amazing. I can't wait to see the X-Wings, because I want to see their progress, the progression of design from Rebels to OT. I think that's really interesting to me. And, I like anything that's a nod to the Falcon, because that's, to me, the best ship. And I know you guys probably did a poll about top 5 ships.
We did an episode about top 5 ships back in the day. Might have to bring that back, because it's been a long time. Haven't done a poll about it yet. That's a good idea, though.
And did the Falcon happen to play into this?
Yes, there were some of the, I don't remember who, but I think think Carl's favorite ship was the Falcon when we did our top 5 ships.
Gotcha.
So
I think it's so cool that it was based on a cheeseburger. So
yes.
and TIE fighters based on hot dogs. But I think the design elements, and I love seeing the history of the design and like how are we gonna see the first Death Star, and are we gonna Star Destroyers pretty much haven't changed, it looks like. They look pretty much the same, and TIE fighters look very, very similar, but there's a few changes. And I love the use of the speeder bikes throughout the first episode.
Indeed.
And I love some of the masks, some of the helmets. I thought the design of some of the helmets was really cool, and I was like, why didn't we get any of those? Because I would wear those.
Nice.
I just, it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, I love, and I look forward to Zeb, hitting them in the head.
Yes.
Because whenever he hit Ezra,
yeah,
just because he was wearing wearing a bucket.
A bucket.
Bucket.
I look forward to him hitting more buckets.
I think we'll definitely see it.
Yeah, and I was looking. I mean, Zeb is just huge, humongous, and most of the time, he's not really standing up. He's kind of, because everybody else is so much shorter that he has to kind of look down, kind of hunch over a little bit. You know? And you look down. I think the original design was he was actually gonna have like actual shoes or whatever, but no, they just threw that out, and he has like a lizard feet, just bare. I think that was a pretty sweet design.
Yeah.
That they came out with.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, no. And what did you think about the little Obi-Wan?
I liked it. I mean, I liked it. It didn't seem out of place. It was a nice callback to, the prequels and the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
My only question is that all that the holocron has on it? Is that it? Or is
I can't
there
imagine that's the only thing on there.
Right. Or are we going to get more, and that's going to have Obi-Wan teaching stuff? Because I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it was pretty cool that we got to see like a holocron, like see what actually happens when like a Force-sensitive person, uses it. Encounters one. All these little things like come out of it, and it like levitates, and pretty sweet.
God, it was a gorgeous prop. I mean, it's animation, but I still call it prop. And I just think it was beautiful the way they did it, and then all the little tricks and seeing it fully opened, like when he hands it back to Kanan, and because we didn't see all that open up, all of it, you didn't get to see it up close. I just thought that was just so beautifully done, and I hope, a holocron can hold so much information. I can't imagine that was the only thing on that.
Right.
So, and they're recordable, obviously. So, I mean, who knows? He could be picking up messages from other Jedi.
Right.
Out there in the universe. Maybe even Yoda.
We will see.
We shall see.
So, I mean, I'm hoping that, since, we have Rebels, and I'm hoping that now that Rebels is starting to get going, I'm hoping we're going to start getting, like, some, more than just Episode 7 rumors. Because, there's tons of stuff out there, all these rumors and stuff, and it's just kind of like, at some point...
We're going to be getting rumors until they actually show us a clip.
But there is one interesting report that says John Williams is set to begin work in 2 weeks on Episode 7 music. And
yes.
So I'm pretty excited about that. If that's...
So excited.
I mean, it is a report. I don't, because it isn't actually confirmed I don't think.
What it was, and I looked at it and I followed the links to the source, and somebody had gone to a concert that John Williams was conducting, and he, at some points he talks to the audience, and he was rolling into some of the Star Wars stuff that they were going to perform, and he was saying, and as you know, I'm set to work on the new Star Wars movies, and in fact, I'll be starting work on it in about 2 weeks.
Yep, I see that quote. Yes.
And then he said, so to celebrate that, let's go back to some of the old Star Wars stuff, and that's when they started playing. So, But yeah, there's a video that you can't see anything in the video, but it's because the camera phone is pointing at the ceiling, but you can hear John Williams talking. So
it's quite something to see John Williams conduct in concert. It's spectacular. I wept.
I want to see that so bad sometime. I haven't
I
been able to
highly
see
recommend.
Yeah, it's great.
I kind of hoped he'd be part of the Star Wars in concert
Mhm.
thing.
But he wasn't.
But he wasn't. But I got Anthony Daniels, so I was happy.
Yes, I saw Star Wars in concert, and it was so good.
Yes, it really was. I got to take my nephew and his best friend, who my nephew are very proud to say turned into a Star Wars nerd. He was 7 at the time. And it came to Boise, which was a shock because nobody goes to Boise. And it was so amazingly well done. It was just beautiful. And just Anthony Daniels, the way he tells a story and the way he walks you through it. I just I expected him to walk out and everybody to start acting like Ewoks going, oh. Like when he came out at Celebration 4 and for his Q&A, and we all did that. Because he actually went off stage and came back and he said, okay, let's start this over. I'm going to come out. And we all did that again anyway. It was fun. It was so fun. He's such an amazing ambassador for Star Wars, and I loved hearing his voice again as C-3PO in the second episode of Rebels, which some people haven't seen yet, so I'm not going to say anything more about. But I love that he's the only actor to appear as his character in every Star Wars incarnation.
Right.
And that something he pointed out that I never really thought about something he pointed out at the concert was that C-3PO is the first line of A New Hope, and he has the last line of Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
And it made me go back and rewatch all of them, But I was like, oh, that's just so perfect. And that it's this particular character played by this particular actor. And that he's so committed to this character. And that's how important he is. That showed me the importance that C-3PO has, to the story. And not just as a comic relief. Because at the time of the original trilogy in 1977, Rolling Stone actually said the same thing about C-3PO that they said later about Jar Jar Binks, which was that he's the most annoying character in Star Wars. It was like word for word. They showed the 2 articles in this thing I was reading back then. And I was like, no. C-3PO is a great character, but it took time for people to warm up to him. And I think that, but I think Anthony Daniels has 100% to do with why we love that. And I mean, I love that George Lucas got the idea for these 2 characters from The Hidden Fortress, which is a fantastic Kurosawa film. And they really do kind of embody those characters the way they serve the same purpose. They're like the chorus in a Shakespearean play. Mm-hmm. So all hail Anthony Daniels. Are they going to start up again the concerts? I thought I read.
There is a Star Wars in concert that's going to JediCon in Germany. So for our European
they always get the cool
listeners.
stuff.
So I mean, hopefully it'll return to the States, but for now, it's just gonna be in Germany. So.
Well, they did a pretty wide tour.
Yeah.
So, but I would definitely go see it again. It was great because they had the 501st. From the surrounding areas, which there's no garrison in Boise, but there's in surrounding areas, and the Rebel Legion. And so it was great to connect with the groups again, because it had been a couple of years since I'd done anything. And it brought so many people together. I'd never seen anything in Boise do that. Just people from all walks of life. And I think Star Wars kind of transcends everything. It's like, you love Star Wars? Okay. And you're rich? Okay. You love Star Wars? You're poor? Great.
Mm-hmm.
It's another, Star Wars brings people together.
It really does.
It really does.
Okay, so I think, I know you have to go, Jason, and we've been going for a while, so,
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that, I think right now we just mainly have a lot of rumors, but we got Rebels. So, and I think for now that's going to be, just a little.
It's going to tide us over.
Just a little tidbits that's going to tide us over.
It's doing a good job so far, I have to say.
Yes.
Even with 2 episodes, I'm happy with what we have in the meantime.
Okay. Yep. So, counting down, counting down to a year before episode 7. It'll be here before we know it. So,
it really is. Oh my goodness. Is it really just like 14 months?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Because I remember it being like, oh yeah, that'll be happening in like 2.5 years.
It seems so far away before.
It did. Now it's a lot closer than I thought.
And they're still filming.
Okay, so Jason, how can people find you?
Yes. This is going to be fun because Karl always does this on our show. To find Karl and I on the Wampa's Lair, you can find us at Wampa's Lair, the Wampa's Lair Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Wampa's Lair Podcast. On Twitter, twitter.com/Wampa's Lair, or just at Wampa's Lair. And then you can email us at wampaslairpodcast@gmail.com. And that's where you can find us. So.
All right, thanks. Okay, Nikki, what about you?
I can be found on Twitter at iHeartCoulson and also on Facebook. And my blog is punkrockzebra.tumblr.com.
All right.
And I'm always around Radio Free Endor's Twitter page if you want to say hi.
Yep, and I'm at JEBell49er, and go to the Facebook page, go to iTunes, leave us a review. So just that kind of stuff. Check out the past episodes, and Nikki, Jason, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and Karl.
Yes, thank you both so much for coming on.
Thanks. And thank you for listening.
Bye.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.